Front and Center. Front and Center. A focus on important and significant developments affecting the lives of Filipinos, not only in the Philippines, but also those living and working around the world. Join us in Front and Center. Front and Center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Good day, welcome to Front and Center, where we focus on developments in the Philippines, legislation that provides policies and directions that strives to promote a better economy for the country, issues that concern the welfare and well-being of every Filipino. All of these and more will be Front and Center. You can watch this program live on our Facebook page, Radyo Pilipinas World Service, and you can also hear us live on audio streaming at Evox PBS Receiver app. So join us for another edition of Front and Center with your host, Jerome Toledo.
Front and Center. Front and Center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
And for the fifth time, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has arrived in Washington, D.C. on Sunday, July 20th, United States Eastern Time, for a three-day official visit. President Marcos Jr. was welcomed by Philippine Ambassador to the United States, Jose Manuel Babe Romualdez, U.S. Ambassador to the Philippines, Mary Kay Carlson, among Philippine and U.S. officials. And he is the first Southeast Asian leader to meet with U.S. President Trump since the start of the latter's second term in January. How can Manila benefit on Marcos' fifth visit to Washington? So we now have on the line the foreign policy expert from De La Salle University, Professor Renato De Castro. Good morning, Professor De Castro. Thank you for joining us in the program.
Good morning, Jerome. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for joining us in this program of Front and Center on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Okay, and I'm delighted that President Marcos Jr.'s fifth visit is very initially successful. But I would like to ask this, Prof. De Castro. So, what will be the meeting between Presidents Marcos Jr. and President Trump be like?
Well, I'm just referring to and basically going back to the statement of our ambassador to the United States, Ambassador Jose Babe Romualdez, who said, don't expect anything dramatic or new in this bilateral summit meeting. Rather, it will be simply a matter, it's a matter of reviewing what, of course, had been accomplished in the past. So, of course, you have dramatic developments that happened in the Philippine-U.S. relation, of course, during the Biden administration. You have, of course, the reassertion of the importance of the alliance then, reflected by the decision of both sides to increase the number of enhanced defense cooperation agreement sites in 2023. Then you have, of course, the revival of a 2+2. Then, of course, more recently, you have the deployment of American strategic weapon systems, like, for example, the medium-range capability Typhoon system, and, of course, more recently, the Nemesis. So you have these dramatic changes going on in the alliance, and chances are, of course, and most probably, that what the two sides will do would be to review and possibly see what else could be done in ensuring, of course, strengthening the alliance in terms of what Secretary Hegseth mentioned, strengthening the alliance deterrence capability. The other aspect there, I think the more thorny and more challenging is the issue of the tariffs.
Yes.
So you remember when President Donald Trump announced Liberation Day, the tariff for the Philippines was set at 17%. Then just, I think, a couple of days later, just last week, President Trump sent a letter to President Marcos saying that the tariff for the Philippines will be at 20%. And of course, just a few days ago, Indonesia was able to cut a deal for Indonesia to have 19% tariff. So this is something that both sides would have to discuss.
So two important matters that will be discussed in the meeting between Presidents Trump and Marcos Jr. So that's economy and defense, and that's the central focus of the President Marcos Jr.'s fifth visit to the United States, strengthen the economic and security cooperation between two allies. So, do you see any difference between this fifth visit and his past four visits in Washington?
Well, of course, what's the difference is will he be dealing with a different person? He had dealt with former President Joe Biden. Well, there's no problem. Then, of course, he'll be dealing with President Donald Trump. I don't foresee any dramatic change because in terms of looking at President Donald Trump had a personal experience in terms of, saving the Philippine-U.S. alliance during the first Trump administration. I don't know if you would remember, former President Rodrigo Duterte tried to win the Philippines away from the United States
Right.
by trying, of course, to gravitate and, of course, appease China during his term. President Trump then played an important role, of course, on saving the alliance during the Duterte administration. How did President Trump basically ensure ensure the survival of the alliance despite former President Rodrigo Duterte's blatant action to win us away from the United States by gravitating towards China? Number one, of course, engaging former President Rodrigo Duterte in a very personal relationship when they first met in Vietnam. And prior to that, of course, ordering Pentagon to provide all the military assistance it could spare to the armed forces of the Philippines during the siege of Marawi.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember this.
Yes.
May 2017 and October 2017, the United States provided us quality military assistance, despite, again, President Rodrigo Duterte's effort to ask for military assistance from China. The one that was, of course, used by the armed forces of the Philippines during the siege of Marawi was the military equipment provided to us by the United States. And that, of course, despite former President Rodrigo Duterte's effort to appease China. We see the reliability of the United States as a treaty ally, and this happened during the time of the first Trump administration.
Yes.
So I don't see any dramatic change in terms of our security relation. Let's see what will happen when it comes to asking President Donald Trump to give the Philippines what I call a favorable deal when it comes to the tariff rate.
Okay. So speaking of tariff, before I proceed on the next question. So do you think this tariff, particularly this Trump tariffs, which is purely an economic matter, is a matter of foreign policy discussion?
Yes, it is. Well, it's not totally economic. It has, of course, a geopolitical dimension, which we could discuss in another forum, because at the end of the day, it's about cutting a deal with countries on a bilateral manner to a certain degree, which makes China very much apprehensive. China has been very vocal about this. The efforts of the United States to cut bilateral trade deals is primarily directed against China. So that's not totally economic. There's a geopolitical dimension to this. But this is something we will really have to watch for. A crucial element here, if you will see why you have so much tariff rate for a number of ASEAN countries, like, for example, Malaysia, Vietnam, of course, cut a deal. But for other ASEAN countries, like, for example, Cambodia, Laos, and even Singapore, had to do with transshipment goods from China. You have goods being manufactured in China being brought to Southeast Asian countries. Then they put a tag made in, let's say, hypothetically, Laos or Cambodia. Then it goes through the U.S. market. I don't think we are guilty of transshipping goods from China to the United States. Almost all our exports are manufactured here. Semiconductor, food items, garments that are manufactured in the Philippines. They are not transshipment goods from China. So I think this gives us the advantage in coming out with a trade deal. Most probably even a free trade deal with the United States. That has actually been on the table since the Trump administration, first Trump administration. I'm sorry.
Okay. But of course, the president's official visit also aims to address the U.S. tariff proposed to be levied on Philippine exports, as DFA Assistant Secretary Raquel Solano said in a press briefing. But last week, I had an interview with Sergio Ortiz Luis, the president of the Philippine Exporters Confederation, and I asked him whether the Philippines has an advantage on renegotiating the tariff, and he said that there is little to bargain, and we already gave everything. He further said that we must keep reminding the United States. I think that's his suggestion, that we must keep reminding the United States government that we are their best ally. So what are your thoughts on this?
First of all, I like to correct. Mr. Ortiz, we're not America's best ally. We're the oldest, but the
Mm.
best ally of the United States here, I have to correct him, it's Japan.
Mm. Okay.
Japan hosts several American military facilities on its territory. Japan pays 75% of the cost of those military facilities. And of course, next you have South Korea and Australia. But
Mm.
just to play the devil's advocate regarding his recommendation,
Mm.
that's overuse, primarily relying on the alliance and, of course, linking it with economics. We have to, in a way, be more creative in terms of the economic dimension. In terms of the alliance, I don't think that will be affected. But more importantly, let's be more creative in terms of how we negotiate when in the economic front. Now, number one, we have to impress upon the United States
Mm.
that the Philippines is not a transshipment point for Chinese goods going to the United States.
Mm.
Let's basically focus on the prospect of attracting more American firms. I think another economic matter that would be discussed, and which was of course discussed by U.S. State Department Secretary Marco Rubio
Mm.
and our Secretary of Foreign Affairs, Teresa Lazaro,
Mm.
and even by the Japanese Foreign Minister, is the Luzon Corridor. How we will have to develop the Luzon Corridor as a very important investment hub, not only for American businesses, for Japanese, South Korean, and even Australian, that we have to develop, the Luzon Corridor.
Mm.
So again, let's be creative. Let's not rely on the usual approach of always linking our alliance with our economic, our economic matters. No,
Mm.
let's focus on how we basically have to improve our bargaining position, specifically in terms of our economic relations with the United States.
Mm. Okay. Okay. So one last point before I let you go, Professor Renato De Castro. So I have a few minutes left. But anyway, you mentioned about the defense aspect, particularly the proposed sale of the 20 F-16 fighter jets, and as well as the deployment of U.S. troops here in our country. So that's going to be discussed in the meeting with President Trump.
Yes, of course. Again, when you talk about the arms deal, this is something that could, of course, also strengthen our leverage at the economic front. We're telling the Americans we're acquiring, your best weapon system, and that will, of course, basically provide us a balanced economic relations. But you also need to assist us in terms of economic development. We can only afford to acquire such a weapon system if we have a very dynamic economy that could be made possible by continuing a very vibrant trade relations with the United States, and of course attracting American investments. Plus, of course, the element of what they call the business processing outsourcing industry here that is, of course, primarily driven by American demands in the United States. Then also in terms of the importance of inviting the United States to bring in more strategic weapons, primarily to strengthen the deterrence capability of the alliance. Secretary Pete Hegseth was very emphatic when he came to Manila in April this year. We really have to focus on strengthening the deterrence capability of the alliance, not only because of Chinese expansion in the South China Sea, but more importantly, China's irredentist goal against Taiwan. That might happen in the near future. So this is something that we really have to focus on. How can the Philippines and the United States strengthen the deterrence capability of the Philippine-US alliance, integrating it to the American idea of an integrated deterrence in the Indo-Pacific region?
Okay, and the United States is focusing or shifting its focus from some other theaters
from Europe,
to the
from what we call Euro-Atlantic to the Indo-Pacific.
Indo-Pacific, yes.
Again, primarily from the perspective of the Trump administration, the more important security concern is here in the Indo-Pacific region, right in our backyard.
Right in our backyard, and we have to defend it, of course.
Yes, not only for it's really it's in the interest of the Philippines that we have to protect, we have to ensure, and emphasize by no less than President Bongbong Marcos Jr. last week at Camp Aguinaldo during the Armed Forces of the Philippines call this the command, the
Command
command meeting with
conference.
the commander in chief, the importance of protecting, ensuring our territorial integrity and, of course, our territorial rights in the West Philippine Sea. Command conference. I'm sorry, the command conference.
Yes, yes, that's right. And that's enshrined on our archipelagic defense
Defense concept.
concept. Right. Okay. Very well said. And thank you so much, Professor Rene de Castro, the foreign policy expert from De La Salle University. Thank you and have a good day. Thank you for joining us.
Have a great day, Jerome.
Okay.
Thank you.
And you just heard Professor Renato de Castro, the foreign policy expert. And Front and Center will be right back after these short messages.
Paliwanag mo sa tao na hindi totoo yan.
Dahil ang totoo, yung totoo ang dapat ninyong malaman.
Nagkalat sa internet ang fake news
Ang
o
ginagawa
mali
ng
at
fake news, tinatapon niya yung tao.
What they are doing is creating panic.
We say no.
Yung pagkalat ng fake news. And some of it's dangerous.
Sana iwasan po natin pag-spread ng fake news.
At di magpapakalat ng disinformation at misinformation ang kasulukuyang administrasyon.
Stop telling us fake news because you're wrong.
Para sa totoo at mapagkakatiwalaang mga balita at impormasyon, Radyo Pilipinas.
This is a public service announcement.
Discipline is the key. Umiwas sa aksidente sa daan. Ang pagmamaneho ay may kaakibat na responsibilidad, hindi basta mapaandar lang ang sasakyan. Kilatisin ang sarili, ang kahandaan sa manibela, siguruhing inyong konsentrasyon ay hindi magagambala. Importante rin na ating laging isipin, init ng ulo ay huwag pairalin, bagkus kaligtasan ng lahat ang siyang dapat unahin. Isang mahalagang paalala mula sa Presidential Broadcast Service at Radyo Pilipinas, Radyo Publiko 738.
This is a public service announcement.
Public service announcement
From PBS, Presidential Broadcast Service at Radyo Pilipinas, Radyo Publiko 738.
Front and center. Front and center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Welcome back to Front and Center here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service with me, Jerome Toledo. And speaking, or as we tackle the Trump or President Marcos Jr.'s visit to the United States to meet with President Donald Trump, so we will now focus here on our country, particularly the implementation of the Capital Markets Efficiency Promotion Act, or CMEPA, because there is a fake news that is circulating online that that this law will implement a 20% tax on our bank savings. So we will have to check with the Department of Finance to clarify the issue that surrounds the CMEPA. So we now have on the line the Fiscal Policy and Monitoring Group, which is under Assistant Secretary Carlo Adriano of the Department of Finance. Good morning, Assistant Secretary Adriano. Jerome Toledo here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for having me here.
Thank you, Asek Adriano. So I would like to ask this. So what are the key provisions of the Capital Markets Efficiency Promotion Act, or CMEPA?
First, before I discuss the key features of the Capital Market Efficiency Promotion Act, I would like to clarify that we do not tax your savings. So if you deposit your savings to a bank, we will never tax that. What we have been taxing since 1998 is the interest earned from your savings. And this tax on interest income has been there since 1998. So one key feature of CMEPA is the standardization of the taxation on interest income to 20%. So before CMEPA, we have different rates and what we sometimes call it preferential rates, such that if the maturity of your deposit, your bank deposit, is less than 3 years, it's been subject to 20%. And for instance, if your maturity is more than 5 years, you're sometimes tax exempt. And hence, with CMEPA, the goal really here, by standardizing the taxation on interest income, the goal is equitable taxation. Because if you think about it, those who have extra cash that they can park in the bank are those who are relatively well off.
Okay, so meaning to say standard or standardizes, so that's making the rates flat or at 20%, right? Or I'm sorry, standardizing or uh, implementing a flat rate.
Yes, that's correct. A flat rate of 20%. So we
20%.
have removed that what we call the preferential rates or the lower tax rate. I would like to note that before SIMEPA, around 99% of total deposits are already subject to the 20%. So less than 1% are those deposits with preferential rates.
So, okay. So does that aside from our banks, bank deposits? So does that include other some financial products that we usually avail from our banks?
So we have only standardized the taxation on interest income for SIMEPA. However, we have reduced the taxation on other financial instruments,
Yeah.
such as when you taxes related to capital markets.
Capital markets like investments or time deposits, bonds, etc., or some other related bank products. Correct, ASEC Adriano?
Yes, so basically stocks and bonds. So we have reduced taxes related to capital markets. So just an example, we have reduced the stock transaction tax from 0.6% to 0.1%. We have also reduced the documentary stamp tax on the original issuance of shares from 1% to 0.75%. And finally, we have completely removed the documentary stamp tax with regards to mutual funds and universal investment trust funds.
Okay.
And the goal really here of SIMEPA from the title itself is to promote capital market development and to encourage Filipinos to invest in the stock market.
Okay, got it. And also, the savings and investments, for example, in social security system, the government service insurance system, or GSIS, or Pag-ibig, are they affected on this SIMEPA law?
Thank you for that wonderful question. So government saving programs from the GSIS, SSS, and Pag-ibig, such as the MP2, are still tax exempt. So SIMEPA did not remove the tax exemption of this government savings program. It remains tax exempt.
Remains tax exempt. So otherwise, the deposits from some other banks, like commercial banks, will have a 20%
Yes, the interest income
interest
on
in.
the savings.
Oh,
Yes.
okay, got it. So after all, there's no truth that 20% will be taxed. That is circulating on social media because people are worried because that's their life savings.
You are correct. We are not taxing your savings. What we have been taxing since 1998 is the interest income earned from your savings in your bank accounts.
Okay. One more thing, Asek Adriano. So does that include the foreign currency deposits?
Yes. So for foreign currency deposit unit, it includes foreign currency deposit units for resident. However, for non-resident foreign currency deposit units, it remains tax exempt, and this covers basically OFWs who have bank accounts.
Okay. So it's still included, but he must be the resident of this country.
Yes, resident foreign currency deposit unit. I would like to note that it has that the interest earned from resident foreign currency deposit units have been subject to tax.
Subject to tax. Okay, so very
Even
well.
before SIMEPA. Sorry, even before SIMEPA. It has
Okay.
been subject to tax as well.
Okay, got it. Okay, so very well said. So there's no truth about it. So it's only 20%, regardless of how much income that the bank deposits have. So it's a flat rate. So the DOF standardizes the or collection of the tax on your savings?
Again, sir, I would like to clarify that it is taxes on interest earned, not on the savings.
On the interest. Okay, got it.
Yes,
okay.
sir.
Okay, got it. All right. Very well said. And thank you so much, Assistant Secretary Carlo Adriano, the Fiscal Policy and Monitoring Group of the Department of Finance.
Thank you very much and good morning to everyone.
Okay. And you just heard the Assistant Secretary Carlo Adriano, the Fiscal Policy and Monitoring Group of the Department of Finance. And that we now conclude this edition of Front and Center here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service together with our production team and technical personnel. This is your host, Jerome Toledo. Until next time, mabuhay, love the Philippines.
You have just heard and watched Front and Center. Front and Center. Join us again for another edition here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Front and Center.